access and all corridors to be opened up so that people have access to humanitarian assistance. Because when we move around the areas where we are doing the response, we are seeing a huge impact. For example, the cuts that had happened, it has contributed to us to reprioritize. And through reprioritization, more people were left out and more children and women are going to suffer. Especially children are going to continue suffering from malnutrition and die. On top of that, we have realized again, it's not only conflict, but disease outbreaks like diarrhea, cholera, mpox, and lately the Ebola, that outbreak that we experienced again. So these are the things that we are pushing across all donor countries, all diplomats that is possible at our disposal, including engaging with the European Community to say, how best can you support this country to move forward? How do we put in place measures that help the communities to have peace and be able to do their day-to-day livelihood activities?
Jean-Martin, two questions. One of them, just a quick answer, please, this first one. I wonder to what extent hunger and malnutrition are spreading faster than the world can respond. Is there enough food available to feed every one of us on the planet wherever we are?
Adrian, that's an emphatic yes. There's plenty of food for everyone in the world. It's just not in the right places. It's not reaching the most vulnerable.
Okay, so what's it going to take to fix the problem? As we said at the beginning of the program, global military spending has risen to $2.7 trillion. That was in 2024, an increase of 9.4% in real terms from 2023. And yet your organization, the World Food Programme, says that ending hunger by 2030 would cost $93 billion a year. That's less than 1% of what's been spent on military budgets over the past decade. Do you think that the public understands the math here, that fixing hunger would take a fraction of the tax dollars that they are contributing to military spending every year?
So, Adrian, I'm not sure the penny's dropped with global public opinion, and I'm grateful to be here with you today and with the others to raise awareness about what's going on with global hunger. We at the World Food Programme realize that this problem is not going away. The money that used to come in will not come back immediately. This is going to be a slow burn, so we need to adapt. What we're trying to do is be as effective as possible with the limited resources we have. We're trying to innovate, make sure we squeeze as much benefit out of every remaining $8 that's out there. But as you alluded to in your question, Adrian, the solution to this problem, it's political solutions. We need to end these wars. We need to find diplomatic solutions that allow access to the populations that are suffering from insufficient food intake and that might be starving right now. In the meantime, we do need to fund these humanitarian programs to avert the consequences that I mentioned earlier on.
Shaheen, you mentioned Gaza in a previous answer. What's the situation there now? Has it improved at all since the ceasefire? And if funding cannot be relied upon in the future, what can be done to make communities more resilient to food security shocks?
So the truth is, there's no real, single silver bullet, but there is a roadmap. We need sustained, well-funded humanitarian aid programs to meet the immediate needs, as the previous speaker said. That needs to be paired with long-term investment in local agricultural, nutrition, water, and healthcare. And addressing conflict and inequality is crucial, because you can't feed people if war destroys their farms or destroys their markets. And tackling climate change through funding, adaptation, and support for vulnerable communities ensures people aren't repeatedly pushed into crisis. So I would say, with the right political will and the resources, hunger is solvable. It's a choice and it's not a fate. And for us, I think when you look at the question that was previously posed, we have enough food to feed the world 1.5 times over. Yet, the answer to your question is who eats is determined by power, it's determined by access, it's determined by borders, and it's determined by wealth. The gap between those who produce food and those who profit from food has never been wider. So this is the global picture of inequality that we're seeing worldwide. So people are not starving because crops have failed. They're starving because systems have failed. So hunger today is a symptom of inequality and not of insufficient food. So for us, I think there is no single bullet, but there should be, and there is a roadmap that needs to be well-sustained, well-funded humanitarian aid. So actually that, we fulfill the broken promises that we have as an international community when we're far off track from zero hunger. Hunger is arising in regions where SDG commitments should have been delivered on, we should have delivered through major progress by now. So what we need to do, I think, is to understand that not only in Gaza, but around the world, where international, for example, law is ignored, hunger becomes a weapon and civilians pay the price. So for me, I think for us as an organization, we're saying that it's the inequality gap, which is not a glitch in the system, it is the system. And unless global economic rules change, we will keep fighting fires instead of preventing them.
Manenji, I just want to read you a quote from the UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. She said that the poorest pay the ultimate price. When the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. She said, quoting the African proverb that's often used to convey the idea when two powerful nations or organizations or individuals engage in conflict, it's the weak or innocent who bear the brunt of the suffering. I mean, she's right, isn't it? Isn't she? It's always the poorest and the most vulnerable people, like the people in the DRC, who suffer.
I totally agree with you. What we are seeing on the ground is that the poorest women and children are the people that are suffering. Because the rich and the elite, they're enjoying. For example, if I give an example, is that if you look in the East, that's where the war is. And then if you look at the elite and those rich people, they're in Kinshasa and they're peaceful. And it's normal, it's daily living as usual. They have access to resources, which is not going back to the communities. I think recently we've been talking about how do we bring peace? Because when there's peace, there's development. I was really surprised. It's one of the conversations that was done when President Trump said, we need development. We don't need humanitarian assistance. But I say, we need peace first and foremost, so that people have access to land, people have access to markets, people can do cross-border trading without any challenges. But if we don't have peace, we can't do these things. If we don't have peace, there's poor people, they can't access their land, no matter what happens. And it's really challenging and very so sad that when we talk to the communities in the East, they say they just want to live their normal life in their own village, where they feel the challenges that they are facing at Kinshasa level is not the same challenge they are facing. They want to access their land. They want their kids to go to school. They want their kids to access health care and be able to harvest their plants.
Manenji, I'm sorry to cut you short, but we're rapidly running out of time. Jean-Martin, we've got about a minute and a half left. I mean, here we are, global platform, Al Jazeera. You're broadcasting to the entire world here. What is the WFP's message to world leaders about their moral obligation to end this scandal? And it is a scandal that is global food insecurity.
So I would tell global leaders that you have a moral obligation to respond to concurrent famines and to a rise in acute food insecurity worldwide, but also a practical one. A practical obligation because an unaddressed food crisis will have consequences beyond the countries in which it takes place. These things tend to expand, unchecked. Food insecurity leads to migration, threatens international stability. So let's take this seriously.
And there, we must end it. Many thanks indeed for being with us. Jean-Martin Bauer, Shaheen Ashraf and Manenji Mungundu. And thank you for watching. You can see the programme again at any time by going to the website. That's at Al Jazeera.